Alrighty, so here we go. Grab some popcorn, boys and girls, because this is going to be a long review. 11 games to talk about, as today we're going to look back at the Saturday action, and let's just jump straight into it, because obviously, if I keep doing the intro, it's going to make this video even longer than it need to be. But one thing I will say is that we definitely had some teams that desperately need a win, got exactly that, and one of those teams that got that was Atlanta United. They finally got a win. It feels like it's been a long time since the Five Stripes have got a win, but they did it in this one against a Red Bull side that once again they kind of show both side in this one. They shown the good Red Bulls team and then they also shown the bad Red Bull side. Though the good Red Bulls kind of showed up early in this one as 6 minutes in, Frostberg would score from Mehmeti and Hall to give the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead. And yeah, Atlanta didn't clear their lines there. How many times we've seen that happen where their defense kind of let them down, but the Red Bulls will take it. They lead it 1-0. Sanchez did look to answer, but he puts it high before Hoyos denying Frostberg from close range. The shots were 3-2 early for the Red Bulls up to this point. Munyumba would then skies one despite being wide open from 10 yards out. And I know Tristan Munyumba is not known to be a goal scorer, but man, oh man, that absolutely should have been 1-1. And it also was kind of a moment, just kind of sums up Atlanta this season. When you're a bad team, you're not going to get that luck in front of goal no matter what. Pico would then heads it wide from the corner before Maranchuk puts it over from close. Here, Atlanta definitely started to get something going, continue to press to try to get the equalizer, but we do head to halftime with the Red Bulls leading 1-0. In the second half, Forsberg would then puts it onto the roof of the net before Cal puts it wide from close range. Once again, the Red Bulls were on the front foot. They're trying to get the second goal. Almiron was in on goal there, but he puts that one wide because, again, Atlanta, when they're a bad team, they're not going to get that luck in terms of finishing. We've seen this before with Atlanta where they have the moments in front of goal, but they're just not going to go whatsoever. But we do go for a period where not much really happened, which that always favorites the road team, especially when they're leading. But in the 69th minute, Muyumba would score to tie the game up. He scored from Marunchuk and Chuck and Jakob to tie the game up at one apiece. And well, for Muyumba, I'll tell you what, after that horror miss that he had in the 27th minute, that's definitely one way to make amends of it. Just an absolute banger there. Definitely in contention for goal of the week. And then just 13 minutes later, Atlanta would takes the lead as Fafa Pico would score from Almiron and Maronchuk to make it 2-1 in favor of Atlanta. I believe that's the first goal for Fafa Pico in an Atlanta United jersey, but nevertheless, what a moment to do so. And yeah, for Atlanta, I'm pretty sure not a lot of Atlanta fans thought that they would turn around that quickly in the second half. Hall did look to respond, but he was denied by Hoyos. Atlanta was kind of holding on late in this one, but the question is, can they hold on to finally end this very long winless run? It feels like it's an eternity since Atlanta has got a win, but they do. As they get the 2-1 win in this one, the shots in this one, 10 shots within 9 that the Red Bulls had. Both teams had 3 shots on goal, 5 shots off target for the 1 that the Red Bulls had, 2 shots off block for the 4 that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 42% possession compared to 58% possession the Red Bulls has in this one. And, overall, I don't know if this win will do anything other than the fact that they're now out of the wooden spoon spot with a win, but it feels like it's still kind of a battle between them and Sporting KC potentially winning the wooden spoon. But for the New York Red Bulls, it's not the first time we've seen them lose to bad teams. I mean, if there's one thing I will say about the Red Bulls, despite how frustrating this season has been, and it's got to be frustrating for Red Bulls fans to see this every single week of you don't know what kind of team will show up. Sometimes it's a bad Red Bull side, sometimes it's a good Red Bull side. This was definitely not a great Red Bull side for the most part. But one thing that is consistent is that they always find ways to lose to some of the worst team in the league. I mean, they've lost to Montreal twice, and now they lost to Atlanta. It's just kind of it can't really explain the fact that how in the world did they beat some good teams in the East, and then somehow they find ways to lose to among the worst team in the league. These kind of resort is going to really cost the Red Bulls if they want to have a chance to make it to the playoffs, and they're definitely in the midst of the playoff race, even though they have been inconsistent as hell so far this season. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is Charlotte and Columbus. So Columbus, obviously, coming into this one, it was kind of clear that they were just kind of maybe thinking about punting this game away. I mean, they are trying to rotate the squad a bit, and it's understandable considering they have a little bit of an easier matchup on Wednesday at home. But that being said, for Charlotte, the question is, can they take advantage of it? And the answer is yes, because just 30 seconds into this game, they would get the opening goal. Brent Bronico scored from Schneeg and Abada to give Charlotte a 1-0 lead. And then not long after, it was a penalty that was given to Charlotte. Chambos brought down Abada in the box. This came after just a bad giveaway there at the back for Columbus, a mix up at the back there where it was a short back pass that Schulte basically was forced to trying to quickly play it out, but unfortunately just kind of found right into the path of Abada, and he was brought down by Chambeau. So Abada, of course, won the penalty. He actually took the penalty, which definitely was an interesting decision because usually Pepiel is the designated penalty kick taker for Charlotte, but apparently he really wants to score this one since he won it, and he shows that confident by burying it to make it 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. So yeah, definitely a dream start for Charlotte, but definitely a nightmare start for Laurent Courtois makeshift Columbus side in this one. I mean, they were hoping maybe they can get themselves a point out of this game, but yeah, 2-0 down looked like maybe things might be too far for Columbus to get get this one back, especially with a makeshift team. Bo would then look for a third, but he was denied by Schulte before Gianconi with the cruise for a shot, but he missed wide there. The group really did start to get into this game after a nightmare start. Again, that can happen when you're playing a team that you usually don't play. There's not a lot of familiarity and chemistry in the team. But that being said, in the 41st minute, they do get one back as Chase Adams score his first career MLS goal from Lennon and Jacona to make it 2-1 in this one. He then tried to score his second career MLS goal, but he hits one in the side netting, and all of a sudden the momentum was with Columbus. It feels like they have woke up, and you're thinking that maybe they might still have something to play out of this one. They were definitely pressing for the equalizer late, with 6 minutes of stoppage time being added. Though on the other end, Schulte had to deny Tokomati from close range, but we do head to halftime with Charlotte leading 2-1. But Laurent Courtois realized that this game might be up for grabs. They might have a chance to get all 3 points. So he brought it. The Cavalry, Gomez, Mendez, and Maria was summoned into this one. Some of the starters, of course, come in to try to get themselves the equalizer. Harbarum would miss wide from long range in the 56th minute before Ruva would have a shot that was deflected wide. Columbus continued to press hard and try to get themselves the equalizer. And this is where, if you're Charlotte, we've seen this before with Dean Smith's side where they kind of become a little bit too defensive, and that's kind of what frustrates Charlotte fans a lot. The fact that, yes, I know that Dean Smith is kind of more of an old school manager known to sit back a little bit, but you just kind of asking it for it when you're facing against this Columbus team that definitely have a lot of difference makers right now. And then in the 65th minute, though, Charlotte did have a chance to make a third because Schulte came off his line, didn't get there. Goodwin had a chance to hit it into the empty net, but he just did not get enough on that. Ruvakova was able to clear that one away. It's also not the first time we've seen Schulte make some mistake. That's kind of the thing I think for Columbus that they're gonna have to deal with going forward. The fact that we know this back line is prone to make mistake, and that was almost costly again. Abada would then puts it wide on the chip in the 69th minute. All of a sudden, Charlotte realized that yeah, this game is not done. They need that third goal, knowing that Columbus have some difference maker to tie the game up, and they got it in the 75th minute as Pepiel would score from a local and Clary to make it 3-1 in favor of Charlotte. Martinez did look to answer, but he missed wide in the 82nd minute. I'm kind of surprised Joseph Martinez immediately is inserted into this team. I mean, I guess because of the fact that he already secure the work permit from his previous time in MLS, you might as well just kind of put him straight away, and he definitely had some good looks as well in his debut for Columbus. There's no doubt this is probably going to be the role that he's going to play maybe for majority of the season with him coming off the bench rather than being a regular starter like what we saw during his time with the Quakes and Atlanta. Chambos would then puts it wide from long range. Charlotte pretty much going with their bend but don't break kind of approach again, trying to lock this one down, trying to hold on to this 3-1 lead. Harbarum would hits it right to Kalina before Zazwatsky puts it just wide from close. Saint Maximin then hits it right to Schulte in the first minute stoppage time. So Saint Maximin making his debut for Charlotte in this one. Again, many people have said that he's kind of like Wilfred Zaha 2.0, and we'll see whether or not that is the case. Lennon would then hits it right to Kalina in the second minute stoppage time before Mendes would miss wide from long range in the fifth minute stoppage time. But in the end, despite the pressure that Columbus put, Charlotte was able to hold on. They win 3-1 in this one. The shots in this one, 26 shots compared to 9 that Charlotte has. But the difference is shots on goal. 7 shots on goal compared to just 4 that Columbus had. How many times I've said it's not about how many shots you have, it's about the shots on target. And Charlotte had more in this one compared to Columbus. 10 shots off target for the 2 that Charlotte has. 1 shot that was blocked for the 11 that Columbus had. And possession wise, 65% possession compared to the 35% possession that Charlotte has in this one. So a little frustrating resort for the Long Courtois team, not able to get something out of it. We kind of knew that was the case, especially when they put in a relatively weak roster, a roster that hasn't really been getting a lot of minutes. You knew it was going to be destroying it. And as I said yesterday in the Chicago versus Portland game, if you're gonna go with a makeshift team, going down 2-0 is almost a death sentence relatively early in the game, and especially with the way that Charlotte has always have the ability to shut things down late in the game. Yeah, you're not usually gonna come back from that kind of resort. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is DC and Montreal. And what do you know? Another draw for DC United. They're really going for Nashville and Chicago's record of having the most draw in a single season. I mean, they already got half of that, if I'm not mistaken, with nine draws so far to their season. Or really 10 draw, that is. I think it's 9 draw coming into this game. 10th draw for DC, though in many ways they kind of got fortunate with a draw in this one because Montreal they should have won this one, and the guy called Sean Johnson, we know he can still steal games for teams. Just look what he did with Toronto in terms of how he stole many games for TFC at times, and he definitely did it for DC in this one. Early on, Baribo would heads it wide as that was the first shot of the game. Owusu would heads one right to Johnson before Montano would hits it right to Gillier, and then he hits it wide on the header as the shots were free too early for DC, but neither of these are really getting some dangerous chances, despite getting some early chances, that is. Though the chances were started getting more dangerous because in the 17th minute, Johnson would absolutely rob Owusu from point blank. You usually do not see Prince Owusu miss that kind of opportunity, but again, Sean Johnson, he was up for it in this one. Vera would then puts it over from long range before Baribo heads it wide from close range. Sunchuk would then puts it over on the volley. Both of these teams continue to create good chances, but the question is, who can show that clinical finishing? Because that's been kind of what let down both of these teams, and as a result, we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Johnson would deny Sunchuk from long range, but then a penalty was given to Montreal. They go to VAR to see whether or not if Kurokawa handballed this one, and he did. So here comes Prince Owusu, a chance to step up from the penalty spot. He doesn't usually miss from the spot, and he doesn't here, so he buries it to give Montreal a 1-0 lead. Pereira then looked for another, but it was put over. Montreal definitely has the momentum, trying to get themselves another goal, but instead, in the 67th minute, a little against the run of play, DC would ties the game up as Ty Baribo, he scored from Nunu and Hefty to tie the game up at one apiece, and it was not great defending in Montreal perspective. I mean, it was way too easy for DC to cut Montreal open, and especially leaving Bariba wide open there, that is definitely a choice. Especially the most dangerous goal scorer besides Montano there, that's definitely not a great choice to have. Sunchuk did look to answer, but he was denied by Johnson, and then he absolutely robbed Rios from point blank. Like I said, Johnson, he was a man possessed from open play. He was refused to be beaten from open play. Montreal, they were trying everything to get that second goal and beat Johnson for the second time. Sunchuk would then miss an absolute sitter from 5 yards out. So, despite the fact that Johnson, of course, makes some great save, Montreal didn't really kind of help themselves. The fact that they were really poor in terms of finishing from open play. Not the first time we've said that happened. This has been an issue for this Montreal side coming out of the World Cup break, and it's also been an issue for Sunchuk as well, because as excited as Sunchuk has been, and he has definitely put bit of a spark for this Montreal side, he had problem in terms of Barrett it in the back of the net. He just cannot buy a goal right now. Vera would then hits it right to Johnson before the post, would deny Escobar from close in the 4th minute of stoppage time. And you can clearly see DC, they were hanging on for a point. It was all Montreal. They were pressing hard to get that winner. Escobar would then hits the side netting on the back post, but in the end, despite all the pressure that Montreal put, they can't quite get the 3 points. As DC got another draw in this one. The shots in this one, 18 shots for the 7 that DC had, 7 shots on goal compared to 2 that DC had. I swear there's probably at least more than 7 shots for Montreal. I mean, it feels like Johnson made it at least more than just the 6 save that he made in this one. 5 shots off target for the 4 that DC had. 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that Montreal has in possession wise. 61% possession compared to 39% possession that DC has in this one. And again, for DC, I know it's another draw, and I know DC fans are probably a little frustrated with the fact that this team have been drawing way too much this season. They're kind of the draw kings of MLS right now. But hey, they will definitely take it, considering the fact that Montreal should have won this game. And this is kind of the reason why Montreal is down where they are in the Eastern Conference. And this is kind of a common theme where bad teams, when it comes to trying to put the ball in the back of the net, that usually doesn't happen very often. They don't get that luck in front of goal as we usually see good teams does. Now, moving on into the last game on this board is Orlando and FC Cincinnati. And I'm going pretty quick with these games as well because I'm trying not to make this video super long that is. But yeah, this was a game where I said that there was going to be a lot of goals. Well, the good news is there was goals. Bad news is there wasn't as much as it. And I would also say that this was probably one of the more normal games that Cincinnati played this season because it feels like every single game Cincinnati involved, it's an absolute car crash when it comes to just crazy things happening. But this game was a little bit normal, though there was still a lot of shots in this game as well. In the first half, Spicer with the game's first shot, but he missed wide there before Salatano denied Ellis from long range. Spicer would then puts it just wide from close range. I gotta say, Tyrese Spicer, he has looked really good for Orlando coming out of the break. I don't know, is that because of the fact that ever since Griezmann has been introduced, he's allowed to go forward more on the attacking end? Because when he has gotten the license to go forward, he's been very good for this Orlando City side. And I guarantee that somewhere up in Canada, in Toronto, they're probably thinking like, why in the world do we let go of Tyrese Spicer? Why couldn't we get this version of Tyrese Spicer when we drafted him #1 overall? But Orlando was definitely on the front foot early, trying to get that early lead. The first shot for Cincinnati, see Ramirez puts it wide. As Cincinnati started to get into this one, they didn't really start on time in this one, which I think might be on purpose because for whatever reason, this Cincinnati team this season, of all the crazy games that they've been playing, they always tend to play better when they're behind, which is kind of weird. But they eventually did go ahead in the 23rd minute as Pavel Buka, another one of those guys that has been red hot. I mean, pretty much this free-headed monster, Evander, Denke, and Buka is just scary right now. I mean, everybody is just scoring for the Cincinnati team. It's no wonder why they are among the highest goal scoring team in the league. If not, they're probably the highest goal scoring team with the way that they're pretty much like averaging 3 or 4 goals every single game. But anyway, it made it 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. It was also a great goal there from Buka. I mean, from long range there. That just kind of shows you how much class he has so far this season. But we do go for a period where not much really happens, something I usually don't say when Cincinnati is involved. Though on the other end, Salatano would rob Ellis from point blank in the 36th minute, and then Ellis would head one right to Salatano as Orlando press back. They're looking to try to get the equalizer, but we do head to halftime with Cincinnati leading 1-0. However, in the second half, Orlando does get that equalizer. Remember when I said that Tyrese Spicer has been red hot? Safe to say that he's been definitely a spice man in this one. Well, he scored here from Ellis and Angulo just 3 minutes into the second half, and we're level at one apiece. Griezmann then trying to make it 2-1, but he hits one right to Salatano. Momentum right back to Orlando City. It's one of those games again where momentum just kind of swing back and forth. They're pressing now to try to get the lead, the lines that is. But on the other end, the post would deny Denke, but then it falls to Evander, and he was brought down in box by Brekalo for a Cincinnati penalty. Or was it though? Because they go to VAR to see whether or not if there was some embellishment there for Evander, and there was. So yeah, embellish of course, or Evander got booked for a simulation there at the foul. Was not given, and yeah, good on the fact that VAR look at that because we've seen before where maybe a team can get away with it, but it's great to see that VAR of course look at it, and great to see that you still have the ability to book the offender that is. And for Evander, something tells me he's probably going to get a check on Monday morning, or even later. Well, actually today is Monday. He's probably got this check already. The fact that yeah, he's probably gonna get a fine for embellishment from the disciplinary committee. But in the 64th minute, the post would deny Echenike from close range. Momentum now goes right to Cincinnati again. It's a back and forth kind of game up to this point. Both of these teams were pressing hard to get the lead. Barlow looked like he got it in the 71st minute. Problem was, there was an offside on the development of play. It was Denke, the one in an offside position, so no goal for Cincinnati. Paslich then puts it wide from close before Crepeau denied Mbomo Dem from close range. Again, this game feels like it's up for grabs, but the question is, who can get that crucial winner. Well, Evander tried to do so, but Crepeau says no. He denied him in the near post. I gotta say, Crepeau, he has looked really good coming out of the World Cup break. As bad as he was in the first half of the season, it feels like he's a reborn, and something tells me maybe a lot of that is due to the fact that he did pretty well with Canada for the most part in the World Cup. Our Cartagena then puts it wide from long range before Evander puts it wide from long range in the 5th minute stoppage time. But in the end, nobody could get that crucial second goal. It ends 1-1 in this one. Shots in this one. 17 shots with 11 that Cincinnati has. 3 shots on goal with the 5 that Orlando has. 4 shots off target with the 2 that Cincinnati has. 1 shot that was blocked with the 3 that Orlando has. And possession-wise, 52% possession with a 48% possession that Orlando City has in this game. So overall, I think the 1-1 draw is fair in this one. It was one of those games where it was very even, and you can clearly see the quality of both of these teams, especially on the attacking end, and also some defensive mishap that both of these teams has had. But overall, I think a 1-1 draw is definitely a fair result, and I think both of these teams will definitely take it, knowing that both of these teams have been pretty good coming out of the World Cup break as well. With that being said, I am now going to switch board and look at the next 4 games as part of this 11-game review that I'm doing tonight. All right, next up is Toronto and New England. So, as I said before, this was definitely the week where teams that desperately needed a win and have a long winless run, some of them were able to finally break through. And in the case of Toronto, the first time that they're back at home and playing in front of their home crowd, and they reward that home crowd with a win in this one. Now, in the first half, Gavron would rob Miller on an overhead kick before Coolio puts it wide from close range. New England definitely started well in this one. In fact, they were the better team for majority of this game. This was a classic example of what can happen when one team is just so clinical and the other wasn't able to do so. And you could also maybe say in some way this was a bit of a smash and grab for Toronto as well, especially when you look at the stats after this game. The first shot for Toronto, see Sargent hits one that hits his own teammate. Harrison would then miss one onto the roof of the net before Gavron would deny Polster from close. New England continued to press to try to get that opener goal. Fafana would then puts it wide from close before Turgeman puts it wide from close in the 34th minute. But then in the 43rd minute, Toronto would get the opening goal, really against the run of plays. It's actually going to go down as an own goal for James Sands. They originally gave that to Corbinu. I feel like they should have gave it to Corbinu. That shot was on target. It took a nasty deflection off of Sands as well, but nevertheless, they credit that as an own goal for Sands. And did I say James Sands? I mean Will Sands. That is, got the wrong Sands brother there. There, that is. It's Will Sands, the one that scores an own goal for Toronto. But hey, Toronto would take it. I mean, with how this season has gone, they'll take any luck that they can get. But it also feel like it's a gut punch for New England because they've been by far the better team up to this point. Hugh would then look to respond, but he missed one in the 5th minute stoppage time. But then in the 6th minute stoppage time, Toronto doubled their lead as Nicholas Dorsch would score his first career MLS goal from Mihailovic and Shari to make it 2-0 in favor of Toronto, and it was an absolute banger there from Nicholas Dorsch. He hit that one so well there that yeah, Turner had no chance in terms of making that save. So yeah, we head to halftime with Toronto leading 2-0, despite the fact that New England had majority of the chances. In the second half, Shari would put it just wide from close. Little do we know that would actually be the last shot that Toronto would get because New England really start to ramp up the pressure again, even though I said Toronto kind of picked up where they left off, trying to get themselves a third goal. Though on the other end, Harrison would struck the post on the corner before he had a shot that was deflected wide there. Jack Harrison definitely seems like he's already snaked in a little bit. He's actually been pretty good in the 2 games that he's played with the Revs there, and I have no doubt that he's gonna can show that ability that he showed when we saw him at NYCFC and why he got that moved to Leeds in the first place. But yeah, so far he just could not buy a goal. And then in the 76th minute, Mihailovic would get a red card in this one, and yeah, he. I mean, I think Mihailovic was maybe surprised at first that he got a red card, but if he looks back at it, I don't think he's probably that surprised because it's a starts up challenge there on Carlos Hill. It's your typical strikers kind of challenge, but unfortunately, it's just such a egregious one that yeah, Mihailovic of course had to go. So now Toronto's down to 10 men in this one. In New England, they sense that maybe there is a chance that they can still come back in this. Polster would then cross it wide from long range. It's pretty much all hands on deck for Toronto. They are just playing haram ball up to this point, trying to hold on to get their first win since April while playing with 10 men. Truman would hits one right to Gavron in the 85th fifth minute before Gavron would tip Rain's shots over. Harrison would then rolls one right to Gavron in the 88th minute, but then the 90th minute, New England finally got that one back and made it interesting as Wilson Harris would score from Harrison and Fafana to get one back for New England, and you just sense that it's been coming. They've been pushing all the pressure, and it also doesn't help that for Toronto fans, there's still 8 minutes left in this one. So New England, they can definitely do it. And knowing Toronto this season, if there's one thing we remember from TFC's 9 game home stretch earlier this season, this is a team that is definitely have some big moments at the end of the game, both for good and bad reasons. That is, and it looks like this might be for bad reason of them giving up another late goal to blow a two nothing lead. Yao then puts it over from long range. New England then is just pressing so hard to get the equalizer that you just kind of had a sense it's a matter of time before Toronto does concede. Harris would then had a shot that was deflected wide, but in the end, somehow in some way, Toronto survive and get their first win. And like I said, it really felt like it was a smash and grab win because look at the shots total: 24 shots compared to just 3 that Toronto has. 1 shot's on goal for the 6 that New England has. 9 shots off target for the 1 that Toronto has. 3 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Toronto has. And possession wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that Toronto has in this game. And if you're New England, I mean, you got to be absolutely kicking yourself how they did not at least got a point out of this game. They were all over Toronto in this one, but this is what can happen when you're not being clinical in front of goal, and especially for a team that has kind of struggled ever since coming out of the World Cup break. They're kind of like almost similar to what we see with the San Jose Earthquakes, where they really overachieved in the first half of the season, and now they're really starting to come back down to earth because yeah, they're definitely dropping down the standings with these resort in these last couple of games, and this one is definitely gonna be more. I think this one probably hurts even more than the Houston one, considered they pretty much dominated this whole game, but they just could not put the ball to the back of the net, and then 2 laps a moment, and that's all Toronto needed to finally get their first win since April. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, it's the Dynamo and the Galaxy. So at one point, on Saturday night, well actually at one point on Saturday night and even heading into Sunday, the Houston Dynamo was first place in the Western Conference. Who would have thought that that would be the case at least in the beginning of the season? That's how red hot the Houston Dynamo has been. Now, obviously, this game against the Galaxy, it wasn't really a vintage performance, despite the fact that they had a man up for majority of this game. But hey, when you're a good team, when you're red hot, even when you're not at your best, you're still able to get all 3 points. Early on, Miller with the game's first shot, but he puts it wide in the 6th minute. Not much really happened early as the shots were one apiece early, but then a penalty was given to the Dynamo as Nelson brought down an alley in the box. So here comes Guilherme, a chance to put it into the back net. He's been just so red hot right now. You know he's not going to miss that chance, and he doesn't. He buries it to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. McGlynn then looked for another, but it was put wide from long range before Hack puts it over from close range in the 41st minute. Glesnes then puts it just wide from long range, but we do head to halftime with Houston leading 1-0. In the second half, we see a red card there from Garces. Yeah, this was a doxo there on an alley there. I'm just kind of surprised I didn't originally call this because it looked pretty obvious that it was a doxo there. So yeah, the Galaxy were down to 10 men. Guilherme then looked for another, but he puts that one wide with the man advantage. Houston definitely pressing to try to get that second goal to put this game out of reach. Lingo would then heads it wide close in the 74th minute. And really, as the time winds down, even though Houston still looked pretty comfortable, you just kind of sense they need the second goal because they don't want to leave it a chance. Because if you leave this one just with one goal, it only takes one counterattack for the Galaxy, and somehow they can have a way to tie it. And it almost happened in the 86th minute when Painso was able to go on a lightning counterattack, but he just could not put that one on target. Marcinkowski then denied Bruzat from long range in the 4th minute stoppage time, and then Aliud, of course, gets a second yellow here, and really a needless second yellow card from Aliud. He didn't really need to pull down Payne so there, but yeah, but it was 10v10 for a bit. There was one more chance for the Galaxy. They couldn't quite take advantage on the free kick, as in the end, it wasn't a vintage performance by any means necessary, but Houston gets the victory. And like I said, at one point, this resort actually took them at the top of the Western Conference. They're no longer in the top of the Western Conference. They're actually in second place right now, but they do have a chance to go top again, and this time maybe all alone because we got a battle of the Western conference, two of the Western Conference uh, leaders heading into Wednesday. Who would have thought that a Houston Dynamo versus Vancouver Whitecaps game would be a battle for the Western Conference? We are definitely in an interesting timeline when that is kind of the case. I mean, imagine a couple of years. I say that in 2026 we would see a battle of the West between the Houston Dynamo and the Vancouver Whitecaps. Nobody would have believed that would be the case, but that's where we are right now. 2 shots on goal compared to none that the Galaxy had. By the way, both teams had 9 shots. 3 shots off target with a fourth that the Galaxy had. 5 shots that was blocked with a three that Houston has. And possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that the Galaxy has in this one. And yeah, for the Galaxy, I mean, what can you do? You're playing against a red hot team. And to be fair, I would say that at least the Galaxy did a good job, at least not allowing Houston to really creating too many dangerous chances. At least defensively, they were for the most part kind of decent. I mean, I say that with a big grain of salt because they did make some mistake on the defensive end, and of course the red card was one of the reason why. But still, at least they kept it close. But you just kind of had a feeling they had no shots coming into this one. They will probably have a better shot now that they're going to be going back home on Wednesday and they get to face against a tailspin San Jose Earthquake side in the Cali Clasico. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, a match that I'm pretty sure everybody's been waiting for me to talk about. That's why there's timestamps in the description below. But for those that wondering, I mean it's exactly 30 minutes that I now finally get to talk about Nashville versus Inter Miami, and I think this game just kind of shows you what can happen when Inter Miami can't get bailed out by hiding talent. And I've said this before. I know Inter Miami is pretty high up in the standings, and I know people might say that I'm a hater, by saying that I'm not giving Miami the dues, even though they're high up in the standings. Well, here's the thing: we knew that Miami was going to be right up in the top of the standings, and we knew that the high end talent, of course, is definitely there for them. But it does not mask the fact that this team has had some serious issue on the defensive front. Guess what happened in this game? They have serious issue on the defensive front, and goalkeeping mistake was once again a big part in this one as well. And also, so when the high end talent and the goat himself, who you gotta say Messi, I just don't know if he's feeling well right now. I still think that the death of his father that he has had to deal with just a week is still fresh in the wound, and this is also kind of why I'm really surprised he came back so soon. It doesn't seem like he's in the right mindset. And this is where if you're Guillermo Hoyos, you make that big decision to maybe kind of give him some rest and maybe just kind of let him simmer a bit, because you don't want to just have. I mean, as much as he will say that that's not the thing that it bothers him, and that he can play through it. At the end of the day, we are all humans. I mean, Messi is still a human being. He does still have feeling, even though it feels like he's a machine at times. And as I said, it just feels like he has not looked the same ever since the death of his father, and it's understandable it, why that's the case. But early on in the first half, the first shot of the game did see Rios Novos deny Espinoza from long range. Nashville definitely gain control of the game early in this one, but the passing just seems off for Miami in this one. I mean, it just didn't look crisp whatsoever. Saad would then puts it wide from long range, as that was the first, or no, that there was a whistle that was gone for a foul there. So even if Saad puts that one in, it wouldn't have counted. Rios Novos would then deny Mukhtar, but then falls to Espinoza, who puts it wide. It was all Nashville early in this one. They were definitely more up for it in this one, and why wouldn't be? I mean, it was a full house at Geodis Park. Everybody was excited for the showdown down at the top of the Supporters Shield, standing in the Eastern Conference as well, and they were trying to get themselves the opener. But the question is, can they do so? Because we know when you don't take advantage against Miami, you're gonna get punished later. But good news for Nashville, they did take advantage of it, because literally after a minute I wrote that, they probably saw what I wrote. Eddie Nahad would score from Saad to make it 1-0 in favor of Nashville. How about Elias Saad? I have been very impressed of how he does so far. He's really created more balance to this national team, especially create another outlet in terms of the winger position. And now you kind of also wonder, those Tunisian fans thinking, how can he be like that in the World Cup? For us, because yeah, in the World Cup, let's just say he and that Tunisia team had a really rough World Cup, that is. But that being said, in the 19th minute, Rios Novos denied Espinoza from close, but then a penalty was given to Miami. Suarez was brought down by Palacio there in the box. So here comes Messi, a chance to put it into the back of the net from the penalty spot. remember, he has missed the last two PKs in the World Cup. So you wonder, is this gonna continue into MLS? And it did. He missed the penalty here. Sharky was able to make the save. Regulon did follow up on the second attempt, but Regulon encroached there. It was pretty obvious that he wins the box before Messi striked it. But yeah, that's the third straight PK miss that Lionel Messi has had going back to the World Cup. Again, it just clearly feels like he's not in the right mindset right now. It's quite crazy to see the GOAT himself miss from the spot. I mean, I know Messi has missed from the spot before. He's kind of more of a below standard PK taker for a guy that can do everything else. I feel like that's kind of one of his only real weakness that you guys say. But still, I mean, this is kind of crazy to see him miss three straight PKs going back to the World Cup. That is. Mukhtar then puts it high on the free kick, but nevertheless, in the 7 minute stoppage time, Miami does get the equalizer. It's Segovia. He scored from Messi and Frey to tie the game up at one apiece. Yeah, he Segovia pretty much went beast mode there. It is not very often where you see Nashville being very bad defensively, but they were definitely there. Just a traffic cone defending there from Nashville, letting Segovia fight them with ease. And yeah, just like that, the game was tied up at one apiece, and looks like we're going to be in for a great second half. Is it? Well, not really, because at least in a Miami perspective, because after Messi hit one right to Schwalke in the 47th minute, Mukhtar says that I got the lead. I'm going to get the lead back to Nashville. He scored from Saad and Baker Whiting to make it 2-1 in favor of Nashville. Like I said, Elias Saad, he's a man so far for this Nashville side. There was then a huge shout for a penalty for not Nashville not given. Messi would then hits it wide from 7 yards out on the volley. Like I said, if this was a Messi that was in the right frame of mind, he would have buried that 10 out of 10 time. But instead, in the 57th minute, Surich would score to make it 3-1. He scored from Espinoza and Baker Whiting to make it 3-1 in favor of Nashville. I gotta say, I'm pretty sure Seattle is really regretting letting go of Baker Whiting, isn't it? Because Baker Whiting has been really good for Nashville. He's now showing the ability that he can had, especially on the attacking end on the wingback position. But yeah, just like that, it's 3-1 in favor of Nashville. Though that being said, Miami was not happy that there was not a foul on the other end. In fact, Messi thought that he was being fouled on the other end. But remember, Messi, this is not Egypt versus Argentina anymore. And this, I'm telling you what, if if any Egyptian player or any Egyptian fan watch this, they're gonna be hell bent. The fact that this is literally almost the exact same moment to what we saw in that Egypt versus Argentina game, and yet somehow in some way this was given not given a foul, but on their end it was given a foul. So yeah, there's that as well. But honestly, as I said, this is not the World Cup anymore, Messi. You're not going to get some favor that goes in their way. And it also doesn't help the fact that, everybody would ignore the fact that that moment all started because of a bad turnover in the midfield for this Inter Miami team. Like I said, this defense has been absolutely putrid from the beginning of the season, and it continued doing so. And then just a couple of minutes later, Mukhtar would put the exclamation mark to make it 4-1 in favor of Nashville, and this was just an absolute blunder for Rios Novos. I mean, it's safe to say that maybe they need to think about putting Dane Sinclair back in net, even though I know Dane Sinclair hasn't really been anything special. But man, Rios Novos, this is the second time since the World Cup break where he made an absolute howler. Remember that game against Chicago where he basically just completely took a swing and a miss when the pass was coming toward him and it goes in. Here, he just completely misjudged the flight of the ball, and Mukhtar, he might as well just kind of walk this one into the goal. Probably the easiest goal he'll ever score in his career. And just like that, it's 4-1 in favor of Nashville. The route is definitely on. Messi then looked for one back, but he curls it wide. Or curls it right to Schwalke before the post with denying Casemiro from close range. Miami definitely pressing back to get one back, but you just kind of sense Nashville they weren't going to let this lead slip. Surge would then have a shot that was deflected wide from close. Segovia would then hits it right to Schwalke before the post would deny Messi, but then it falls back to him, and Schwalke says no, he's able to rob him on the second effort. Again, this is very unlike Messi. We've seen these chances go in and time again. It is just not happening for him right now. And like I said, I just have a feeling that he may need to think about having a bit of a rest. I know that's crazy to say, but again, he just does not look sharp right now, and it just does not look like he's in the right mindset whatsoever. But yeah, Nashville, a big win in this one. Shots in this one, 18 shots for the 16 that Miami has, 5 shots on goal for the 8 that Nashville has, 4 shots off target for the 2 that Miami has. Both teams had 6 shots on block and possession wise. 45% possession compared to 55% possession that Miami has in this one. And if Nashville can play like this every single which I don't think that that might be the case. I mean, even every good team is going to have off days, but Nashville is definitely feeling it. If this is how Nashville plays, and even maybe about 80% of how they play in this game against Miami, no one's stopping this team. Like, no one in the Eastern Conference is going to stop the team. Heck, I don't think anyone in the Western Conference can stop this team right now. I mean, this team is just loaded right now, especially with the some of the addition that they had made as well. I mean, this team is looking scary again, and I really think that when it comes to who is the favorite to win MLS Cup, I know a lot of people will still say Miami. I think it's Nashville. It really is Nashville. To lose with how good they've been. Now all they need to hope is they don't have some major injuries, because we've seen before with injuries that has hit this team, it kind of caused a bit of a problem. But still, when they have their strongest team like this, nobody is stopping this team. I don't think anyone is going to be stopping this team when playoff time comes, if this is how Nashville is going to play. Now, moving on into the last match before I switch the board, is Colorado and Sporting KC. So this was kind of expected. You expect Colorado to get the easy win, but they did let the door open for Sporting KC to get themselves back in the game, and let a big opportunity late in the game that if it was against any other team that is Sporting KC, and maybe in some sense Minnesota and the San Jose Earthquakes as well, yeah, they probably would have dropped points in this game. Though early on, Manungu would puts it over after just a WTF turnover in a bad spot for Sporting KC. Not the first time we've seen that has happened, but there is no doubt that Colorado was on the front foot. We expect that. They were pressing for the opener. Navarro would miss wide from close range before Holding hits it wide from close range. The shot were 5-0 for Colorado up to this point. Harris with Sporting KC first shot, but he hits it right to Hansen. I have a feeling if Calvin Harris scored here, he probably is not going to celebrate against his former team. But Hansen would then deny Jovic from close. Or KC was starting to get into it. This is the effort I've been talking about that they're starting to show to try to get the early lead. On the other end, though, the post would deny Aronson on the free kick, but it recycled. Manungo had a chance to bury it on the second attempt, but he heads it wide. Sealy would then puts it wide from long range. Momentum definitely back with the Rapids as they're looking to try to get the opener. Sunumanov would then hits it right to Hansen, but then the 38th minute, Ajiman would get sent off in this one, and yeah, rightfully so. I mean, that is a very dangerous challenger. He pretty much went two leg studs up challenge there on Navarro there. That is always going to be instant red card and instant then reckless play, and just endanger the safety of your opponent there. And yeah, just like that, Colorado were up a man, and you're thinking that this is probably over in this one, because Sporting KC is already going to be up against it when they have 11 men, but now with 10 men, it's probably not going to happen. Atencio then puts it wide from long range, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams, because despite the fact that all signs are still saying that the Rapids should win this game easily, we're having a lot of problem when it comes to finishing in this one. This was kind of a common theme in some of these games where teams were having problems in terms of finding their clinical finishing. In fact, in the 51st minute, the post would deny Frederick from close range before Cleveland denied Sealy on the curler, and you just kind of had a sense that, for Colorado, is it going to happen for them in this game? Good news is it finally did in the 65th minute, as Reggie Cannon finally got the much-deserved 1-0 lead for the Rapids from Mazik to make it 1-0 for the Rapids. Manungu would then look for another, but he puts that one wide. They did go to VAR to see whether or not and Manungu was brought down, and he was actually brought down by Cleveland there. However, they go even further back to see whether or not if there was an offside on the place, and yeah, there was an offside. So even if this Manungu score here, it would have gone to VAR and probably wiped out the goal because of offside. So yeah, as frustrating as Rapids fan are that they didn't get the penalty, it wouldn't even matter even if the goal would have been given too, because it would have been chopped off for offside. Nothing really matters after the offside happened. Mazid would then puts it wide from close. The Rapids was definitely going for the kill, but the question is, can they find that finishing? It just have not been there up to this point. Navarro would puts it wide from close range before Harris was in on goal there, but he struck the post in the 7th minute. In fact, that was really the chance for Sporting KC to tie the game up. And this is also where I mean wrote. This is why the Rapids need this second goal, because you just don't want to take a chance. Your opposition will always have a big opportunity, and that is one that Calvin Harris will want to have back. It's almost like Calvin Harris with kind of a double agent here, because that is usually one that we always see him put away, especially during his time with the Rapids. But nevertheless, in the second minute of stoppage time, it would be 9 men now that Sporting KC will have to play, as Mascara would get a second yellow card in this one, and the Rapids capitalized that immediately when Navarro would turn the lights out at Dick's Sporting Goods Park from Aronson and Hamza to make it 2-0 in favor of the Rapids, and that's the final score of this game. The shots in this one, 26 shots compared to 6 that Sporting KC had, 4 shots on goal compared to 3 that Sporting KC had, 4 shots off target compared to 8 that the Rapids had, 12 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Sporting KC had, and possession-wise, 70% possession compared to 30% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. I mean, it was never in doubt until it almost was with Calvin Harris. If he would have put that one in, that this would have been a very surprising result, and one that the Rapids will definitely be uh be be reflecting and think that this one kind of got away from them. But in the end, they got the job done. Again, they have been very good this season at home. That's kind of the reason why they're in the midst of the playoff race, and we'll see whether or not they can continue. Especially, they got a pretty tough game at home in the next one. LAFC is going to be the team that will be visiting in the Mile High City next on Wednesday. But with that being said, I am now going to finally switch the board one more time and look at the last 3 games of the busy Saturday action to wrap up the review of match week number 20. All right, last 3 game of the review. We're going to start off with RSL versus Minnesota United. And I got to say, when RSL took that lead late in the game, I thought it was over. I thought the Loons have no chance in terms of winning this. And even though they definitely create their moments in this one, you just kind of had a sense RSL had too much quality. And then they somehow got an equalizer. In the first half, Shankly puts it just wide from long range, as that was the game's first shot as well, before GN would puts it over from close. And for once, I thought the Loons started well in this one. This is kind of a thing that we don't usually see them do well this season, which is start off on the front foot and creating some chances. They tend to start off slow. But one of the big problems for Minnesota this season, and why they haven't scored a lot of goals, they haven't really created those chances and put it away. They've been very bad when it comes to their finishing, and it was the same problem in this game. Calendar would then deny Sanabria, as that was RSL first shot, before Pereira puts it wide from long range, as the shots were 3-1 for Minnesota early in this one. Marchuk would then puts it right to Calendar before Luna puts it over from long range. RSL definitely started to get some chances, but I thought the Loons would take it, because most of these chances were low percentage shots, were long range shot that Minnesota would definitely take RSL in terms of taking. Duncan would then hits it wide from close before Marcanic puts it over from the corner. Marcanic then had a shot that was clear off the line by Ingo. And honestly, that moment just kind of sums up Minnesota when it comes to their finishing. You know how I said when you have teams that are struggling to score goals and when you have bad teams, the luck is not going to be on their side. And yeah, it feels like the luck was not on the Loons side in this one, because more times or not, that one is in the back of net. But you got to give credit to Lucas Ingo. Just a last ditch clearance there to keep this one 0-0. And that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. In the second half, Sean Kalai would put it just wide from long range. Lineker was in on goal, but he was denied by Calendar. And the way that Lineker looked really good in the last game, a little bit surprised he didn't put that one away. But both of these teams was definitely getting some good chances, looking to try to get the opener. Calendar would absolutely rob Sperry from point blank. And I gotta say, Calendar, he was kind of one of the reason why this game was 0-0 for a big part, because he definitely makes some big save, and then he also kind of let one uh let one in that maybe he should have done better, but we'll get to that. Cowscan would then puts it over from long range. Solange then missed an absolute sitter. I mean, he missed a tap in from 6 yards out, and with how good Sergei Solange has been, that should have been 1-0. I mean, I have no idea how Solange weren't able to put it away. Cabral would then deny Gian from close before Marchuk would be denied by Calendar from close in the 73rd minute. You just kind of had a sense that RSL was started to finally got themselves the opener, and they finally did it. As in the 60 or in the 82nd minute, I'm sorry, Sergei Solange would make amends of his bad miss that he had just 16 minutes ago. He scored from Luna to give RSL a 1-0 lead, and this is where I said that, for Calendar, I feel like he should have done better there. I mean, in near post there. I mean, to be fair, Solange did hit it high there, but I think with the way how Calendar has been playing up to this point, you probably feel like he should have done better. But it also doesn't help the fact that Michael Boxall got beat way too easily there, and it is pretty clear that we have seen at times where Boxy has show his water time a little bit, and the fact that he hasn't been as good as what we've seen in previous season. Because yeah, that was way too easy for Salon to beat him there in the near post, but nevertheless a deserved goal as well. You just kind of have a sense that one of these teams are probably going to get the opener, and my bet is probably on RSL because Minnesota can't finish. Salons then looked for another, but he struck the post, and honestly, for Sergei Salons, I know he did score a goal in this one, but he could have had a hat trick in this one. These missed chances, we've seen this before with RSL, not just this season, but in previous season. For whatever reason, there's always these kind of games where RSL have looked like they're the better team against their opposition, have a ton of chance at home, but they're not able to be clinical, and it come back to haunt them in a big way because in the 88th minute, to my biggest surprise, and I'm pretty sure this is a surprise to every Loons fan, Minnesota ties the game up. It's Joaquin Pereira. He scored from Caldera and Calendar to tie the game up at one apiece. It really just come from a simple long ball from Calendar, and Caldera, as I said before, he needs to start in the next game. He has definitely brought in life to this team, something that the other two number 9 on this team just simply has not, and he just does a good job in terms of flick this one ahead. It almost kind of feels like it, in many ways, it's your typical Minnesota set pieces where we've seen them flick ahead and set up a teammate wide open, and in this case, Pereira goes through and go, and was not going to miss there, and the game was tied up at one apiece, and I even wrote, well, I definitely did not expect it. I thought the Loons were pretty much done in this one. Sanabria then looked to get the lead back, but he hits it right to counter. But in the end, somehow in some way, it ends in a 1-1 draw in this one. The shots in this one, 16 shots with the 13 that RSL had, 7 shots on goal for the 3 that Minnesota has, 8 shots off target with the 4 that RSL had, 1 shot that was blocked with the 5 that Minnesota has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Minnesota has in this game. This absolutely feels like a loss for RSL, and this kind of really sums up in terms of how things have gone for this team since the World Cup break is over, at least in league play, because for whatever reason they've been playing pretty good. I mean, the records are not showing it, and a big part of it is because they have these kind of games where they look like the better team, they look like they were on verge to get all 3 points, and they just find some ways to lose that and draw points late in this one. But for Minnesota, definitely fortunate that they got a point out of this game. And as much as yes, this is still another game where they haven't got a win. They have actually got 5 draws out of those 8 games, and I did also mention the fact that the last 2 games they've been able to get themselves a resort. And technically, if you want to be an optimistic Loons fans, you would say that they've been 3 game unbeaten so far, because even in the Tigres loss, that still count as a draw because that one went to a PK shootout in the Leagues Cup. So it's not all doom and gloom when you look at the resort that is, but still this team needs to get a win. I mean, it's pretty clear that this team needs to get a win, and a big way to get this team back on the W column, they got to get something going on the attacking end. They cannot look like this and what they have been the last couple of weeks, where it doesn't matter what they do in front of goal, they just do not have anybody that can show the clinical finishing to get themselves over the line. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, it's LAFC and San Diego. I gotta say, San Diego, I don't know what is it with them when it comes to facing against LAFC. They seems to have LAFC number, and LAFC this is where I think we're starting to see the big problem with this team, where they have become way too one-dimensional. I said before that LAFC have been pretty good coming out the World Cup break, and they definitely play some great soccer. But the thing is that they really lean too heavily on the counter-attacking style, and we know that eventually you're going to get found out when you keep playing that counter-attacking style. Especially what happened when that counter-attacking style started to kind of run a little dry. We've seen it in the last couple of games where that counter-attacking style just haven't been at its best compared to what we saw in the beginning, and we kind of saw it in this one. And credit San Diego, they did a really good job in this one in terms of not really getting burned on the counter a lot of time. But it also is the fact that LAFC, they definitely had their moments to win this game. The finishing, just like what I said about Minnesota, was just not at it for LAFC in this one. Early in this one, the first shot of the game did see Sun win beast mode, but he hits the side netting before Delgado hits it right to Dos Santos. As expected, San Diego, they definitely have the possession, but they got to watch out for the LAFC transition, because this is kind of the game that I thought was going to happen. And it looked like didn't get that memo in the 22nd minute when Bawanga scored this one, but VAR did disallow this goal for a handball on Bawanga. And to be fair, this actually wasn't because of a transitional moment. This was actually a bad mistake by CJ Dos Santos. He really got bailed out here. Came off his lines there. His clearance was stolen away by Bawanga. Very fortunate that when it was stolen away, hit the hand of Bawanga, because if it didn't hit his hand, that would have been 1-0 in favor of LAFC. And we talk about self-inflicted mistake. San Diego has had a lot of those so far this season. Lloris would then deny Ingvarson from the near post before Son would have it tapped in, but Bombino was able to make an amazing tackle to get that one away before Son scored one of his easiest goal. And even though that was a great defensive play from Luca Bombino, Son would definitely want to have back. Son was kind of looked like his pre-World Cup form in this one, where he just could not find that finishing. Morgan would then puts it wide from close range. Both of these teams were looking for the opener. He then puts it over on the header in the third minute of stoppage time, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Verhoeven would hit one right to Lloris before Holland's head hits it wide from close range, just like the majority of the first half. Both of these teams were definitely getting some chances, but who can show that clinical finishing? Well, Son tried to do so, but he missed that one wide despite he was in on go there. And like I said, this feels like Son from pre-World Cup form, where no matter what he does, he just aren't able to put the ball into the back of the net. Dos Santos then denied Tillman on the deflection. LAFC really started to take control of this game and pressing hard for the opener. In the 65th minute, we saw Dos Santos denied Son as the flag went up, and then he was in on goal again. But again, his shot was deflected wide, and it just feels like this is just not the night for Son Heung-min in this one. He just could not put the ball into the back of the net. Dos Santos then denied Segura from close. LAFC was definitely pounding on the door, but the question is, can they beat CJ Dos Santos? Because besides that mistake that he had in the 22nd minute that he got bailed out by VAR, he's been very good in this one. He's probably having one of his best games in an SDFC shirt. Holland's head would then puts it over from long range before Tverskov would head right to Lloris. But on that play, Tverskov immediately shouted for a handball on LAFC. It was actually Porteous the one that he feels like he handballed it. So yeah, they go to VAR to see whether or not that was the case. They didn't even need to look very far. In fact, I didn't even have to wait for VAR to overturn this. I knew it was a handball there from Ryan Porteous. So a penalty was given to San Diego. Dwyer, of course, steps up to take the penalty. He usually doesn't miss from the spot, and he doesn't here. He buries this one. He did take his shirt off after scoring this vital PK to give San Diego 1-0 lead. And if you always wondering, in my opinions, when it comes to players taking off their shirts, I have no problem with players taking off their shirt whenever they score a big goal like that. We've seen this all the time in soccer as well. But I always feel like when you decide to do that, you are definitely running the risk of potentially getting yourself a second yellow card, because obviously if you take off your shirt, it's an automatic yellow card. And that, I know it's still late in the game, but still, there's still time left in this one. And if you just make one slight mistake, you can get yourself sent off. And that's exactly what we saw in this moment, as just a couple of minutes later, Dwyer makes a mistake here where he took down, I think it was Segura there on the attack, and really didn't need to make that foul. And if he did have to make that foul, he didn't really need to put his foot so high up to a point where it was pretty obvious that was a yellow card. And because he already got a yellow card for taking his shirt off, he got sent off in this one. Now, ultimately, it didn't really matter because LAFC wasn't able to take advantage of that free kick, but it could matter for San Diego, the fact that they're gonna miss their main man heading into the next game, just because of the fact that you run the risk of decided to celebrate by taking his shirt off. And now that he wasn't able to keep himself disciplined to not get another yellow card late in the game, he's gonna be out for the next one. But still, the good news is San Diego does get the win. They still remain perfect when it comes to beating LAFC. It's hard to believe that we talk about BMO Stadium being such a fortress. San Diego treating that like it's a walk in the park every single time when they go to LAFC. It's all 3 points, albeit it's only been 2 meetings between both of these teams at BMO Stadium, but both time San Diego is able to walk away with all 3 points. Belton has won 14 shots for the 9 that San Diego has, 7 shots on goal for the 3 that LAFC had, 6 shots off target for the 4 that San Diego has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 5 that LAFC had, and possession-wise, 42% possession compared to 58% possession that San Diego has in this one. And I know, obviously, LAFC fans are panicking after this one because of how poorly they play. I mean, here's the thing. I just kind of feel like this is just one of those games where the finishing is not there. Have their finishing was a little bit better, I think they would have won this game. But that being said, I think the concern level of them being a little too one dimensional is definitely there. I think this is going to be the thing that Mark Dos Santos got to do in terms of changing things up, because you can't just simply rely on counterattacks and that's could be enough to get yourself being one of the top team in the Western Conference. Other team is going to find ways to do it, and other team is going to force LAFC to have the ball. And we've seen before at times LAFC haven't been really that good when it comes to having the ball. And really, the recipe against LAFC is as long as you can stop them from running at you on the other end, which is not easy to do, especially with Song and Bawanga breathing down your net. But if you can do that, you can definitely have a chance to get all 3 points. And that's another thing I would say about LAFC that is a concern. They rely too heavily on Bawanga and Song, and when both of those guys are not clicking, which doesn't really happen often, but it does happen in a crucial playoff game like that. That could be fatal for LAFC chances of moving on deep into the playoffs. With that being said, moving on into the next match is St. Louis and the San Jose Earthquakes, and it feels like both of these teams are kind of heading opposite direction coming into this game. In the same case after this game as well, St. Louis is just red hot right now. If it wasn't for the Houston Dynamo also being red hot at the same time, I think a lot of people would talk about how the St. Louis side is definitely for real. And whatever Yon Daime has done to this team, it feels like his philosophy has finally imprinted into this team. It feels like this team finally looks really good, and this is despite the fact that they haven't really added a lot of players, not as much as I thought they were going to do, and they even lost a huge piece in Marcel Harto as well. But obviously that didn't matter because you're facing against a Quakes team that you felt that the Leeds Cup break was a way for them to kind of regroup after just a disastrous post World Cup break time. Yeah, so much for that. In the first half, Sun Bin with the game's first shot, but he hits it right to gun. That came out of a missing communication at the back, and it was almost costly for the Quakes. However, in the 8th minute, the Quakes would concede, as Daniel Edelman would score from Wallen and Sun Bin to make it 1-0 in favor of St. Louis, and I immediately saw that, yeah, looks like the Quakes defense is still bad, despite coming out of the League Cup break. You were hoping that maybe things would be better and maybe they'll go back to their first half form. No, they're still in 2025 defensive form, and when that's the case, yeah, this team's not going to win a lot of games. Judd did look to response, but he hits it wide before the post with denying Leuven off of the deflection. I mean, the Quakes defense, they look even more shambolic than ever before. I would argue this was probably even worse than what I saw in the prior to or after the World Cup break, because they were just leaving so much space for St. Louis to go on the other end, and really St. Louis could have easily been 2 or 3 nil up just 14 minutes into this game. Gunn would then deny Edelman after just another bad turnover from the Quakes. So not only the fact that they weren't defending very well and leaving gaps at the back, they were also committing self-inflicted mistake, turning the ball over and over again. And on that ensuing corner, well, if they weren't bad when it comes to giving the ball away and also leaving a lot of space. Well, add the fact that they also can't defend set pieces, because Simon Betcher would score from Leuven to make it 2-0 favor of St. Louis. Betcher was wide open in the box. I mean, who in the world was marking him? I mean, especially with the way that Betcher feels like he's now back to his old self. We know that this is he has the ability to do well despite the fact that he's been a little bit cold, at least in the first half of the season and also last season as well. It feels like he's back in form here, but it also doesn't help the fact that he was wide open in the box. I mean, that is just criminal defending there from the Quakes. Just classic Quakes defending, not marking the man from the corner. Ruben then looked for another, but he missed wide. It was all St. Louis up to this point, and it just feels like they haven't skipped a beat. They look like they were going to score a couple more goals in this one, but we do head to halftime with St. Louis leading 2-0 in this game. In the second half, the Quakes does get one back as Bo Laroon would score an absolute banger here. And notice how I mentioned the defense has been bad, and I haven't mentioned too much about the attack. It's not that the attack is any better whatsoever. The attack was pretty much silent in the first half as well. But when all things are in doubt, why not rely on Bo Larue? He can definitely score a banger or two, and he definitely did it here. So yeah, it's 2-1 in favor of St. Louis. Could then look for another, but he puts that one wide. You just kind of sense the momentum was with the Quakes, and I'm thinking, well, here we go. Maybe the Quakes can do it. Maybe they can come from behind in this one. Nope, because in the 55th minute, Simon Betcher would score again. This time he scored from Tottenham to make it 3-1 in favor of St. Louis, and it's hard to come back when you don't do a good job defensively whatsoever. I mean, just way too much space there. I mean, it also doesn't help the fact that Angus Gunn, who has been just ridiculed back to hell from the Quakes fan base, he doesn't do a good job in terms of coming out. They're just kind of sitting in the line, even though he really should have just trying to cut down the crosses there. But yeah, just criminal defending all around from the Quakes, and just like that, it's 3-1 in favor of St. Louis, and that killed any sort of chances that the Quakes have had, because with the rest of the game, they were just going for the motion. Betcher then looked for the hat trick, but he was denied by Gunn. This could get even more ugly. I mean, the Quakes, it's pretty clear that they have not showed up, even after the Leeds Cup. Gunn would then deny Betcher from close and another chance for a hat trick. We then had a small coming together between both of these teams. You can kind of start to see the frustration for the Quakes here, not playing very well, and now started to get a little bit antsy and lose their composure. Baumgartner would then heads it high from close range, but yeah, in the end, St. Louis with a 3-1 win in this one. They continue to charge their way up in the Western Conference. I believe they're now all the way up to fifth in the Western Conference right now. Shots in this one: 13 shots for the 7 the Quakes had, 2 shots on goal for the 7 that St. Louis had, 2 shots off target for the 3 that the Quakes had, 2 shots off blocked for the 4 that St. Louis had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that St. Louis has in this one. And like I said, it is an absolute free fall right now that the Quakes are in. In many ways, as much I'm gonna be brutally honest. I know you might think that I'm just being negative, but I kind of saw this coming. I knew that the first half of the season it was too good to be true. This is why multiple times I've said that I'm just gonna enjoy this ride while it lasts, because I know eventually the shoe is gonna drop. I've seen this so many times. They will not ever fool me when it comes to finding ways to just go back to the same old Quakes as well, and it feels like it's happening again. And I want to say I'm disappointed, but I'm kind of not, because you talk about the apathy kind of play. There's always that kind of feeling when I had with this team throughout the year, where the apathy is just kind of settling. The fact that it just feels like here we go again. It feels like this is a team is in total collapse right now, and I didn't mince my word by saying that I wouldn't be surprised if this team miss out on the playoffs, because right now there's really not much that you can fix for this team. I mean, I know that some people will say, well, maybe they need to make some signings to fix this team. Do you know who currently owns this team right now? Yeah, it's good luck in terms of making signing. It's just gonna be an absolute free fall, and I wouldn't be surprised it continues in the next game. Even though I know there are some winnable games out there. In fact, we got the my personal derby game between the Quakes and Minnesota. That game is going to be just. I mean, I'll tell you what. If that game ends 0-0, I'm not only going to be disappointed, but I'm just going to be thinking like, yeah, that's feels about right. With neither of my team has been in good form whatsoever, and like I said, they still have not won a game since the post World Cup break. It is insane to say that, but it's true. I mean, since the World Cup is over in July, I'm still waiting for either the San Jose Earthquakes or Minnesota United to get their first win, and we'll see whether or not if it happens on Wednesday, and maybe it will happen on Saturday, because there is a highly chance that Saturday might finally be the day, considering that, like I said, both of these teams play against each other, and that I'm really hoping that it won't be just so fitting the fact that both teams would get a draw and continue my tournament. I've seen both of my teams are just going through a total collapse right now, especially with the Quakes. But there you have it. That is pretty much it when it comes to looking at all of these games, and that is also pretty much it when it comes to the review. In fact, we actually did this review in about 65 minutes. I'm kind of surprised how fast I was able to do the review that is. I thought this was going to be a very long video, but if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below, and let me know in the comments below what do you think of all 11 games. We got another big midweek action that's going to happen. 15 games that is going to be happening in the middle of the week, all of them on Wednesday, that is. But until then, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.